Hey, White Sox fans, it's Crystal O'Keefe with episode 33 of Visiting Dugout, brought to you by Southside Sox, the part of Fans First Sports Network. Today on the show, I have Asher Draytell. He is also from Pitcher List, as I am, and he's here to talk about all things Yankees, and we'll set up the series. So, Asher, welcome. Please feel free to add to that introduction.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm well, if you're listening to this, you can't see my witty little chyron here, but it says not mad, just disappointed, which I think probably is accurate for most of the fandom at this point.
It is. Yes. So let's talk about your team. So, obviously, the White Sox are in the worst division in the league, and as I was writing these notes, they were still 12 and a half games back from fourth, and they're in fourth place. By now, they're probably 13 because last I checked, they were losing. So the winner of this division might not even have a winning record by the end of this. Yankees, on the other hand, are in last place, but still, above 500.
Yeah, I take slight solace in the fact that at least Minnesota is above 500 now, because for a while there, the Yankees were in last place, and the Twins were winning that division, and they were under 500.
Yeah. So what's going on in the Bronx with the Yankees right now?
Just imagine you sat down and you were like, what are all of the things I can do to make this the worst season for Yankees fans? And then you do all of those things. Aaron Judge gets injured, misses 2 months. Luis Severino can't pitch anymore. Nestor gets hurt and is mostly ineffective before he gets hurt. Loaizaga hurts himself before the season even starts. Carlos Rodón hurts himself before the season even starts and has been mostly ineffective since he's been back, although this is still spring training for him. It's just like I was complaining about this on Discord earlier, and somebody helpfully pointed out that the Yankees are only 2.5 games back of the wild card, but it really feels like they should be like completely out of contention at this point. I don't understand what's been keeping them afloat like that.
Yeah. So, and I was going to ask, at least with Aaron Judge back, because it seemed like this really just took a downward spiral after his injury. Are they capable of doing any better now that he's back, or are the Yankees just too far gone?
He's capable of doing well. I mean, it's easy to say like, oh yeah, Aaron Judge is back, and they win lots of games when Aaron Judge is back, but he's one dude out of 9 in a lineup. Like, I'm sure he'll do well. I'm sure he'll do very well. He's Aaron Judge. He's incredible. But 8 other guys have to do at least average. And it doesn't make any sense that he gets hurt and they're all just like, oh, actually, nah, we don't want to do that anymore.
Also, has like Stanton just died? Like, what the hell happened there with him too? Because he's had looked like a terrible year.
Who was?
Giancarlo Stanton.
Stanton? I think they just got to let him play the field. He always says he wants to play the field, and he does well when they let him play the field, and they just let him play in the outfield. And I don't like what, how could it hurt? He's had a decent week, right? Like some home runs lately. But yeah, that's sweet 200 average.
He played very poorly when I was there a couple of weeks back, but he was in the outfield. We were right by him, but we sat in the bleachers and everyone was just booing him.
Of course.
He kind of like made an error on a play. He really wasn't doing anything at bat. And I was like, well, this was the whole reason we're here, because it's not a Gerrit Cole game. It's not a Carlos Rodón game. And Aaron Judge is still not in the lineup.
You're just there to look at Stanton's butt.
It was really just there for Stanton, and he wasn't even doing anything. So they won. It was like a mid-off because it was the Royals.
I think his problem is, I'm going to look this up because they've been his problem when he's had horrible times with the Yankees, is that he's just hammering everything into the ground is what he tends to do. That's his ground ball percentage has been higher than you would like to see it in his time in the Bronx. But yes, it's been going up. his weighted on base average has been going down. So those lines always will trend in opposite directions for him. He's not particularly fast anymore.
Right. So, well, before we go into more Yankees, I did have a question. Did you have the Orioles kicking ass and taking names on your like 2023 season bingo card?
No.
I had them like they're going to be good after like last season, but I did not picture them in first in the hardest division.
I don't know if I made a prediction on the division. I'm sure I did somewhere, probably more than one somewhere. And I would be surprised if I had them higher than third. I could see myself being like, they're going to be better than Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see me just being vindictive enough to be like, and also the Rays are bad. But I don't think I would have ever put them above the Blue Jays in terms of where they would be in the division.
Yeah, I had the Blue Jays up pretty high too. So on this team, oh, go ahead.
It doesn't shock me that the O's are doing really well. I mean, they have like all of their rookies are hitting, and they're hitting well enough to win despite their pitching. This is real Stones and Glass House thing, but I feel like they really miss an opportunity at this trade deadline because they still have 6 dudes in the top 100 prospect list on MLB Pipeline who are all blocked by guys who are like 21 years old. And if you're not going to deal those dudes for like Verlander and Scherzer and those guys, like,
yeah,
when are you going to do that?
I was happy they picked up Flaherty, but I agree they didn't do a whole lot at theirs. Yeah. But I will say I feel like the Yankees probably had even worse trade deadline. I keep hearing that everyone just kind of punted it. So as a refresher, you guys picked up Keenan Middleton from the White Sox, a reliever, and then a former top prospect turned bust, Spencer Howard. So did the Yankees just punt this deadline, or how do you feel about it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't care about Spencer Howard. They paid cash for it was like a cash deal off of waivers or something. Mm-hmm. And they immediately optioned him. Like if they put him in the rotation, I would have thrown something through a window, but they didn't yet. Knock on wood. But yeah, Middleton, they traded a ranked prospect for half a season of a middling reliever. Mm-hmm. Like I remember when that dude was like the dude. I remember when he was throwing so much harder than everybody else, and everybody was talking about him when he was on the Angels, and then you just never heard about him again. It's like, I don't know. It's one of those things. Yeah, I guess he's been good this year.
He has.
But this is one of those things like he's not coming here to close. Like the Yankees need to be able to fill that bullpen hole internally, or like, what are they doing?
I understand those woes all too well.
Yeah, I've learned from Twitter that like every baseball fan base is more alike than they are different. Like I mean, that's not a particularly deep insight. People do those polls, those like official polling of baseball fans, and like 80% of fans say that their manager is worse than average at bullpen management. It's like, well, that can't be right.
They're all just really bad.
There has to be an average.
Even everyone in first place in their division.
Yeah. They're always the worst at it.
Yeah. What I would take like any of their managers, maybe not yours, but like just about any other one.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll get in. There's a couple things about him that we'll get into here in a minute. But before we get into our like silly Twitter questions, do you even have an MVP candidate on this team, or is it just Aaron Judge kind of automatically?
Gerrit Cole.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I realize we usually think about position players for MVP, but Garrett's he's made every one of his starts, and he's kicking ass and taking names. So, yeah, why not give it to him?
Yeah, he's one of my favorite pitchers in the league. I like to buy a shirt from every ballpark I go to, and I bought a Gerrit Cole shirt this time.
Good call.
He's one of the good ones. Okay, good. I was half expecting that. Okay, let's get into these somewhat chaotic, somewhat fun questions that people wanted to ask about the Yankees. So first, what's the direction of the team right now? They seem to be in a weird gray area. It feels like they're not super committed to the present, but also not really preparing for the future.
I don't think they have a direction. I think they're completely rudderless. They could have done nothing at the trade deadline, but they had to admit what that means. Like they couldn't. I tweeted this. I said they can do nothing at the deadline because, like, once the Cubs got out of it, once all of those teams decided they were buying immediately after they beat the Yankees, there wasn't really an obvious candidate out there for them to like, okay, let's go all in to boost the lineup with like these two dudes. And they don't have anybody to sell. Like, who are you selling? Sevy, maybe? Somebody wants them as a reclamation project for like cash, like international pool cash. I don't know, Bader, IKF, I guess. Like, there's no selling. It's not 2016. They don't have the two best bullpen arms available. But they can't. Cashman cannot have a press conference the night of the trade deadline and be like, "We're here to win the World Series." You can't do that. You have to admit what it means if you do nothing at the deadline with this team. I think. I don't know. I think they don't know what they're doing, and not. I mean, both at a macro and micro level at this point. I've been a Cashman defender for years, and it's like I'm done with it at this point.
Yeah. No, that's fair. This one is more silly. Is George Costanza still employed by the Yankees?
They would be doing better if he was. We all saw he should be their hitting coach. We all saw that he knows what's up.
He can hit a home run at Yankee Stadium.
Just
so
take it to right field. That's the secret.
Yeah. Ooh, we've got some brutal ones coming up. First, what is the deal with your medical staff? Let's talk about Anthony Rizzo for a second.
People gotta get fired. Like, yeah. The Players Association be making a huge deal about this. The league should be doing something about it. It's so long, the entire time that that Rizzo was playing like garbage. Everybody was like, "Oh, he's got some injury, and they don't want to put him on the IL while Judge is out," which made no sense to me because like Rizzo's not. This is not a Giancarlo Stanton hurt his quad a little bit, but let's keep running him out because he's hitting 300 for the month or whatever. Rizzo was tanking the team. But, yeah, I thought that he, like, tweaked his neck. I believed Boone that, like, oh, he had some, like, dudes hurt their neck and they can't bat right because they can't look at the pitcher. I didn't realize he, like, couldn't see. It's insane. Like, how do you pass concussion protocols? How does nobody be like, hey, he passed concussion protocols, but he's still doing all the things that a concussed person does. Maybe we should do it again.
Yeah.
No, it's insane. It's like, and they said that there's, like, neurological damage in the tests now, which is, we also had happened to Clint Frazier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need 10 more years of Rizzo, like, can't wake up without a splitting headache now.
Yeah, because he was on the Cubs for so long, I do not enjoy Anthony Rizzo, but that makes me so mad.
It's infuriating.
People need to lose their jobs over that. That's like lifelong consequences at this point.
People need to lose their jobs over it because it's malpractice, but also because they are clearly not good at their jobs, and this team should not employ them any longer.
Yeah. And then the other really harsh one. Why do the Yankees tolerate domestic abuse but draw the line at alcoholism? I feel like we know who we're talking about here.
I think it's a false dichotomy. I mean, okay, Chapman was gross as hell because, I mean, again, I'm quoting other smarter people than me. They arbitrage domestic violence into a lower trade price. And he is, by all accounts, a garbage person, and nobody liked him. So it was very easy to be like, it was very easy to hate that and continue to hate it forever. Domingo Germán, when he threw that perfect game, somebody was like, we'll have the most complicated legacy of any Yankees player during our lifetime. And I actually wrote up the recap article that night, and I pretty much just laid out like some quick facts about Domingo Germán, which includes that he got the longest, I think still the longest suspension under the domestic violence. Yes, maybe Bauer beat him, but and I also remember when he got suspended for that, a lot of Yankees players had some of the most frank comments on the record about it that I've ever heard from athletes, which again, the bar is pretty low, but you know, I remember Zach Britton being like, you don't get to pick who's on the team with you. And sometimes those people aren't good people, which is like the harshest thing I've ever heard somebody say about a teammate. And you could tell that people didn't like him when that happened. In some more of the coverage of the perfect game, Chris Kirshner, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right, the beat writer for The Athletic for the Yankees, just put a little note in about how he had been going to counseling since that event, part of which is league mandated. I assume the team mandates it. But just like a little line about how he'd been going to counseling and like really changed his act and cleaned up his act. And you can also tell that people on the team liked him more. The whole pitching unit seemed to like hanging out with him more before games. And that's something we don't have any insight into, which probably shouldn't. It's not our business. So I don't want to say what kind of person Domingo Germán is. But I don't think the team accepts alcoholism and doesn't accept domestic violence. I mean, I would say because the only other example I can think that they're talking about is CC Sabathia, who also voluntarily checked himself into inpatient rehab, who is certainly not a domestic abuser. There's been no accusations like leveled at him at all for that stuff. Everybody loves him. I mean, I guess the literal answer to the question is you can do your job if you're a domestic abuser, and you can't do your job if you're blind drunk when you have to pitch. I guess it's the straight answer to it. But I mean, that question is bigger than the Yankees.
Yeah, it's league wide. I mean, I will say my very first article for Pitcher List was how MLB has a domestic violence problem. And I had old friend Preston Wilson like quote tweeting it, telling me I should look into the police force because it's way worse there. And I was like, we're not going to compare where it's worse. The fact that it is happening anywhere is not good. And, you know, again, I feel like all of the women were constantly saying like, Trevor Bauer is not good. Listen to us. And then when Trevor Bauer talked about Mike Clevenger and how he's not good. And then the White Sox picked him up and he pitched today. They lost. I just checked the score. But every single start he makes for the White Sox, I donate money to domestic violence organizations because that's how I can stomach watching and covering a team that knowingly like employs someone like that. And he's been terrible. His interviews have just been disgusting after, and he settled. So nothing was really cleared up. It was just, I'm going to go to counseling. So yeah, I do appreciate that he's actually checking into a treatment. And maybe that was one of the biggest problems to all of the, you know, domestic violence and just not being a good person allegations.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt either of these things are happening in a vacuum. I have a feeling, I mean, I guess he's not suspended, right? He's just on the restricted list right now.
Yeah, he's on the restricted list.
I would be pretty shocked if he doesn't get non-tendered this winter. Like, I don't know. I think this has to be the end of the rope. He's not, to be cynical about it, he's not a good enough pitcher for them to put up with this.
Well, that's what I always said about Trevor Bauer. He won a Cy Young on the Reds in like a Mickey Mouse year. Like he wasn't great. If like, you know, my memory serves me right, he was playing with a drone and broke his finger during the World Series.
I thank him for that.
Yeah.
It was not the World Series.
Yes.
Because it helped the Yankees beat him.
Yes.
Or was it during the World Series? No, it couldn't have been.
No, it was right before.
Got past them in the
Yeah.
Yeah, but he said laminar flow in a bunch of interviews, so he was clearly the smartest person to ever play baseball.
Yeah, and like Clevenger, not that great. He just got knocked around by the Guardians today. So, you know, when they're not even good at their job and they are just terrible people, I don't know why they're still in the league, personally.
It seems like a pretty easy solution at that point, yeah.
One would think. All right, we'll move on from that. That's a downer topic. With all the money in the franchise, why are they so concerned with luxury tax?
I have no idea. I assume if you asked Hal and he like actually wanted to answer you, not like a true serum situation, because then the answer would just be like, "Oh, I'll take home less money if I spend more money on the team." If you wanted him to like give you a real answer, he would say that the marginal utility of the extra dollars is not worth it, which is also a cop-out because he picks where the money gets spent. And like the team has a huge payroll, and how much of it is tied up in dudes who aren't playing or aren't playing well? Like the Yankees took on money from the Twins so the Twins could pay Carlos Correa to play for them, which is an insane thing for the Yankees to be doing. And now Donaldson isn't even playing poorly. He's just not playing at all. So,
yeah. This one is very similar to that. How have the Yankees, it's actually kind of funny the way they worded this, how have the Yankees been a top 5 spending team for the last 15 years, yet haven't won the pennant since the beginning of the Obama administration, much less a world championship?
I mean, because you can't buy those things in baseball. Like, look at what happened to the Mets. Look at where the Padres are. It's the Yankees are not the only ones spending a ton of money to miss the playoffs, which I guess they haven't really done that yet either. So we're getting out over our skis with talking how bad they are. But, you know, you pay, you give guys extensions and it doesn't work out. You pay a big free agent who then hurts his arm and back in spring training. But I mean, yeah, I don't even know where is all the Yankees money going to? I guess it's Stanton, Judge, Cole, and Rodón at this point, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where can I look this up?
How much do players
Potts, right? Potts has the salary. They're giving a bunch of money to Donaldson, and I feel like those are the big names, right? Because the whole bullpen is all like ARB guys. And yeah, it's Judge, Cole, Stanton, Rodón, Donaldson. Donaldson's number 5 on the list for AAV. And then LeMahieu's contract may turn into a big problem, even though it's not like stupendously rich. It's going to be this like a Hick situation where he just plays so badly it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, they're very top heavy. And I feel like giving a bunch of money to Judge, Cole, Stanton, and Rodón is not the worst way to spend your money.
Right.
But then they've spent too much money on dudes who proceed to not do well, I guess, is the answer to that.
Yeah, that's fair. And I know Rodón is frustrating right now. He has had a almost consistency of just not staying healthy, which is, you know, again, probably why the White Sox didn't even give him a qualifying offer. That felt like a big slap in the face for White Sox fans because he had, you know, thrown a no-hitter that season and then he was gone. And then he, you know, went to the West Coast and dominated. He was great. So
just went out there and did the same thing he did his last season in Chicago.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, it's Rodon's still in spring training as far as I'm concerned. Like,
he'll get better.
Yeah, it has not been good, but I don't think it's going to keep doing this.
It seemed like his second game wasn't as bad, but the first and the last ones were both just not great.
Yeah, not particularly inspiring.
Yeah. So the last question on this part, let's talk about Cashman. How safe is his job?
I think his job's really safe. Should it be safe? No, I don't think so. I mean, there's, like I said, it's just a completely rudderless organization now. Like they perform well enough to have draft picks that are always going to be a little bit kind of lottery ticket-ish, because the drop-off in even in the first round for the baseball draft is so big. Of course, it's not just him, but the buck doesn't stop with anybody in the Yankees. It's like it's never his fault. It's never Hal's fault. It's never Boone's fault. It's always some nebulous other person who may or may not exist who's at fault for these things. But like the Montes trade is indefensible. Everybody loved it at the time. Everybody graded it an A. None of us work in the front office, though. None of us saw the medicals. Like, how do you miss that a dude is still injured and still injured enough that he will need shoulder surgery after he's coming off of the injured list for a shoulder injury? Like, I don't understand it. I think he's still, whoever does this in the organization, and he gets to take credit for doing this, very good at finding marginal upgrades, like a Jake Bauers in 2023 kind of guy. But if you want to win the World Series, that Jake Bauers kind of guy has to be your number 7 hitter. He cannot be your number 3 hitter, followed by Willie Calhoun. I don't know. They try to be the Rays with the player development, and they're not, and they don't have to be, and they should stop trying to do that.
I feel like the White Sox and Yankees are so similar in this because Rickon's not going anywhere. He's been, I think it's been 11 years now that he's been the GM, and the most they've done is, first round exit playoffs. And again, they either underpay players that should be paid more, or they don't make qualifying offers for players that should stay, or they pay Andrew Benintendi a ton of money to do what? He's had 2 home runs this season.
Well, you knew Benintendi was going to do that.
Oh, I know, but like that's the largest in the franchise, was paying Andrew Benintendi.
My father is going to listen to this. I mentioned offhandedly we were recording it, and he was like, "Oh, you're going to send me the link, right?" He's going to be really mad that you're bad mouthing Benintendi, because him and my brother are furious that they didn't bring him back to play left field. Which, God, oh man, going back to Cashman, also, he's also cursed. He has become cursed because every single trade he made last year ended with like a season-ending injury. Benintendi broke a bone that he had removed in college. Like, that shouldn't be possible. It should not be possible to break a bone that has been surgically removed from your hand. So, is he going to have his job? Yeah, I think so. I don't think they're going to kill that contract early. Should he? Probably not. Who should they hire instead? I have no idea. There's no GM war out there. I can't look at a list of like pending GM free agents. Right. I thought this winter that they should have hired James Click to take over as the GM and moved Cashman into some, like, I don't know. They have like a bajillion titles for those guys now. Just move him like over on the org chart and let Click run the day-to-day GM stuff. But they didn't, and here we are. Yep.
Both technically losing seasons, even though you guys have a winning record.
If this, I feel like there's a very real possibility that the Yankees may actually end up below 500 this year. I don't think it'll be by a lot. I think it'll be like 2 or 3 games. But if it happens this year, after I lived through those like 2012 through 2015 rosters somehow being in tension until like the end of September, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I will say a lot of White Sox fans, I mean, a lot of fans have kind of almost boycotted this season. They're trying not to give the White Sox any money. They put up banners that say like, "Sell the team, Jerry." And so they're kind of in this like little world with the A's right now, where it definitely needs to happen. Both of those owners need to go, and our GMs are no better. But a lot of White Sox fans are like, we just need to like cut ties. Like, what team are you going to go root for? And I was wearing an O's hat today when I was driving, because I'm just so frustrated with this team. So I get it.
Yeah, it's been an annoying season.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a very quick break to pay bills, and then we will come back and talk about what this series is going to look like. And if you're watching on YouTube, you don't actually get a real break. All right, welcome back. Again, I'm Crystal O'Keefe. I'm here with Asher. We're going to break down this White Sox Yankees series. I mentioned before we even hit record that there is still no pitching matchup for this. Yeah, the last one we've got is Rodón against the Astros on Sunday. And no White Sox pitching because the White Sox, I don't even know if they have any pitchers left on the team.
Yeah,
so how are you feeling about this?
I am terrible at like remembering the order of rotations and trying to figure out who is going to pitch if I'm not told. So I have no idea. I mean, what they say Nestor's coming back this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So it won't be him. I guess Cole would pitch one of those games, right?
Yeah,
Or did he pitch yesterday?
Because it's Servino, then it's Nestor on Saturday, and Rodón. They bumped Rodón back to Sunday. I do remember reading that.
Okay, yeah, and Cole didn't pitch yesterday. That was Schmidt. Yeah, so Cole's got to be one of the games, and then I assume it's going to be like Brito or Vasquez, I guess, or maybe both of them. Yeah, I mean, there's dudes they've called up for spot starts who I'm sure they're going to do again.
Yeah, more than likely the White Sox will put out Dylan Cease and Touki Toussaint, who is the most reliable right now on this team.
I am very happy that Touki is like back in the big leagues and pitching well and looking like he's having a lot of fun doing it. I don't know why I have always liked him. I couldn't like tell you anything about his career outside of the fact that I remember seeing his name when he was a prospect and being like, I like that guy.
He's very likable and he's been great. I mean, like I said, he is the most reliable now that Giolito is gone. Because Dylan Cease just had a complete meltdown the other night. Lance Lynn is gone and he was like finally starting to put things together. We got nobody. We got rid of half the bullpen. Now we don't have a closer because we got rid of Kendall Graveman. And it was just recently announced that our, beloved Liam Hendricks just had Tommy John, and he's not going to be back for at least a year. And he's not even like he's optioned for next year. So we have no idea what's going to happen there. And, a year from now or 14 months, it's still the end of the season. So it's kind of pointless. So we have no one.
Is Bummer still around? Bummer's still around, right? Oh, no, he's hurt. Is he hurt? No, that's a very old headline that I'm looking at here.
Bummer is still around and is living up to his last name right now.
Oh, yeah, that ERA is a bummer.
Yeah.
I want him to be good so that because that name lends itself to such an incredible like existence as a pitcher. And yeah. I guess he is, but just not in the way that I hoped.
Yeah. The White Sox sold everybody, and we were hoping that Bummer would be the one to go. And he's still here, but Reynaldo Lopez is no longer there. So that disappointed me a lot. But yeah, so.
Well, you might get to see Kenyon Middleton at least.
Hey,
so you got that going for you.
I've seen enough. Like he hasn't had a bad season. He was just a little frustrating towards the end of his time here. But we'll move on from the sad pitching of both teams. What are your keys for the Yankees to actually take this series?
They have to not give away a bunch of outs when they're fielding. They really love committing errors and throwing the ball to the wrong place and just letting dudes run wild. That's like number one against everybody. They should just stop doing that in general. And they have to. The Yankees have actually not been striking out as much as you might think from given the results that they are seeing. So I would like them to hit the ball not directly into the ground, 3 feet in front of them. I think would also be a good start offensively. The rest of it's the pitching. The pitching has been fine to good for the most part. Maybe if Boone would like to make better bullpen choices, I would be pleased with that, but that's not on the players.
Do you think Aaron Boone is safe?
Probably, but he's, of the names we've said, he's got to be on the hottest seat. I mean, you fire the hitting coach, and that's like who the manager's next, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't see any reason why they get rid of Matt Blake. He seems like he's actually good at his job, and I mean, there's only so much fan mutiny you can have against a manager before you just like, you can't keep running him out there. But again, I don't know. Boone's got a contract that goes beyond this winter, right?
I think so, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's got a couple years left on that. It's through 2024.
Oh,
so
okay.
I guess I could see them eating a year off of that if it really gets bad. I mean, if they finish below 500, I feel like they have to fire him. There's no way they could bring him back after that. But I hope that that's not a decision they have to make. I would prefer them to finish above 500.
I think that because we have Pedro Grifol, because obviously Tony La Russa could not finish the season. I'm not going to be mean about that. I'm just relieved that he's gone. And they hired Pedro Grifol, who doesn't have a ton of experience. You know, he was a bench coach for the Royals, and the Royals have not been good since they won the World Series back in 2015. Yeah. And I think they hired him as a scapegoat. Has he been great and making great decisions? Not really. But I think he's like the scapegoat so that they can fire him at the end of the season and be like, everyone else is safe. Rakan is still here. Kenny Williams is still here. So that just sucks. This whole organization is rotten.
Yeah, managers and all that stuff is like, there's obvious bad choices. Like TLR was an obvious bad choice.
Yeah.
There's no way you can look at that and be like, I can see why this works. But I think it's really hard for us as people who are not on a team in some capacity to really be like, this is a good person to have coach the team. Because I mean, 80% of the job takes place completely off the field. It's managing this clubhouse full of dudes who, some of whom are making millions and millions of dollars, some of whom are on like prorated rookie contracts or getting paid for like 3 days in the majors before they go back to Scranton, Wilkes-Barre. And that's most of the job, is making sure that these guys can play 162 games, and we don't get to see that. There's obviously dudes who are really good at it, like Terry Francona is great at it. Clearly, everybody loves him. But other than that, you're really just guessing.
Yeah. So, and this could go either way. This could be a threat just the Yankees are capable of doing to themselves, or someone on the Yankees that would be a big threat to the White Sox. So who or what is that biggest threat right now?
I mean, Aaron Judge is always the biggest threat to any team that's facing him. But I think I don't understand why any team would pitch to him at this point. Yeah. Like it should be like when there was that like month where Bryce Harper got intentionally walked every time he stepped up to the plate, and it made sense because he's the only one on that team on the Nationals who could hit at that time. And it also completely screwed him up when they didn't intentionally walk him. So he was like, I got to do what now? And I don't understand why teams aren't doing that to Judge at this point. The biggest risk themselves, they optioned Ron Marinaccio, who was probably the weakest guy out of the bullpen, even though I like him and hope that he figures it out. So yeah, I don't know. Any ball put in play is a big threat to the Yankees right now. Like I said earlier, that it could end up thrown in any direction, be there a player there or not. I would like to see Michael King continue to be good. I feel like he's been very up and down this season. So,
and do you have any fears heading into this series aside from kind of what you just said with just any team hitting and throwing or hitting a ball in the air?
Not particularly. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? We get swept. Like, I don't know. My expectations are so low at this point. For my own selfish fantasy purposes, I think I would prefer if Robert does not like absolutely go off. Oh, wait, what is my brother talking about? He was talking about Robert striking out like it hurt his team. He's not even on his team, so Robert can do whatever he wants. Yeah, it's. I hope the Yankees do well. If they do poorly, it's not much worse for them than it can be. So
yeah, he's about the only good thing on the team right now too, because they got rid of Jake Berger, who is having the time of his life now in Miami. But when you only had two power hitters that were consistent, because it seemed like just every game, both of them would hit a home run, and those were like our only two runs. So that trade I'm very sensitive about personally. But yeah, he's the only one doing anything right now. Tim Anderson finally just got his first home run 2 weeks ago.
Anderson's been hitting well. Anderson's been hitting well since the All-Star break, I think, right? It's been much better than the first half for sure. Yeah, I mean, if the Yankees could go the rest of the year without getting any more injured, that would make me super happy. Everything else is like a cherry on top of that.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, that's what I have for this series. But I always like to ask any guests that come on their thoughts on just kind of the season in general for all the teams. Like, who's going all the way? Who's your biggest surprise, whether that be pleasant or not very pleasant? Like, just things like that to kind of your insight of where the season is heading.
I would say it's been a real weird season in general, right? I saw a tweet the other day that there's no qualified pitcher under a 1.0 whip at this point, which is like the first time it's happened in a very long time. I wanted the Diamondbacks to stay on top in the NL West. I think that would absolutely rule. And I'm very sad to see that they are. I guess they're only a game out in the wild card now. Yeah. So they'll be back on top in a second. But I was really hoping they were going to hold on to that division, which I guess they still could do. Although they're now 6.5 games back of the Dodgers. When did that happen? When did the Dodgers start doing Dodgers stuff again?
Yeah, they kind of snuck up on everybody. I don't even know when that happened. I just checked the standings one day and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I think, it's the Rangers are obviously the story of the AL, but I feel like aside from that, it's been pretty boring on our side of the pond. All the fun's in the NL. You got the Reds and Milwaukee duking it out for the NL Central, and then the Cubs were like, no, we are also going to start winning. The Cubs are the only team in the NL Central with a positive run differential.
Yeah, because they just hit 41 in the last.
That's incredible. And I want Milwaukee to finish the year with a perfect 0 run diff one of these years. They can do it. They're always so close. They're always like plus or minus 2 at the end of the year.
Well, they added Mark Canha, so I have hope, but who knows?
He will walk a good amount.
He will. Yeah, the Cubs, that was a funny story. I was talking to someone else about this just recently. The White Sox went 26 innings without scoring a run, and the Cubs they had 41 runs in 3 games.
Yeah, buying will do that to you.
It's very depressing. Do you have any other thoughts on this? I mean, who do you think will make the World Series?
I would like it to be the Rangers, I would like to be the Rangers out of the AL. I like Houston is also doing Houston stuff right now, and I don't like that at all. I really liked when they were like weirdly scuffling, and everybody was like, "Hey, what's going on down there?" I would vastly prefer the Rangers over the Astros.
Yeah.
I think it's probably going to be Baltimore or Tampa out of the East, and I reckon the Rangers can take both of those teams. I have no doubt that they can annihilate whoever comes out of the AL Central. And then, I mean, look, it's probably going to be Atlanta, right? Like, let's be honest with each other.
We all know.
We've all seen what's happening down there, which I'm mostly fine with. I don't know. I got no problem with Atlanta. It's hard for me to have very strong feelings about NL teams.
Yeah. I only have very strong feelings, but they're positive about like the Reds because they have just been a delight to watch.
Yes, so much fun. My NL team of choice is Milwaukee, so I do have strong positive feelings about them, but I'm not. It's hard to get me to talk trash about any of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, especially like the Pirates got off to a really hot start. That was really fun. I love watching them because I'm usually Indianapolis based. I kind of go between there and Chicago. So the Pirates farm team is down in Indy. So I've been able to watch all of those players. It was really fun because I got to go to a game where Vince Velasquez and Kyle, why am I forgetting his last name? Their ace for the Cubs.
Hendricks?
Yes. I don't know why that.
The other Hendricks, cool.
I know the other
Kyle,
one. The
professor.
Yeah, the professor. They were both rehabbing and got to face each other, so that was a lot of fun. For $15, I get to see two major league pitchers.
Was one of the teams doing a really goofy like theme night? Because it's always great when you see some pitcher rehabbing in like the most insane uniform you've ever seen.
I wish it was a theme night. Sadly, it wasn't. But it was prospects weekend for the Indianapolis Indians, so they at least had cool jerseys. But yeah,
nice.
Nothing super fun. But there were a ton of Cubs fans that from here or whatever that came down because there was just this entire section right there by their dugout, just screaming. And, you know, Kyle was out there signing autographs, which it was cool to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Pirate, like I said, the Pirates have been fun. The Reds have been fun. I love these teams that you don't expect to just kind of get hot at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, Miami's doing cool stuff too. I know you're sad about Burger, but I don't know. It's cool seeing a bunch of teams try to go for it, even if that might be ill-considered.
And Miami, honestly, they might be able to at this point. Although
they gotta bring Yuri back. I don't understand what they're doing there, but yeah.
I did realize that I have tickets for a Nationals game when I'm in town and they are playing the Marlins. And at first I was like, well, whatever. And then Jake Berger went there and I was like, oh, just kidding. So my friend and I have purchased matching customized Jake Berger Marlins jerseys for this game. I'm going with a Nationals fan who is like gracing me with his tickets. And we're going to show up in our like neon Marlins stuff. So that should be fun.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's what I've got for you. This is your chance to plug where to find you so that people can follow along.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Lowrax, low_RAX. I'm on Blue Sky as just at Asher D because I figured, hey, new platform. I'll make a name that is actually sensible. As you mentioned, you can find me on Pitcher List. I write the recaps for Wednesday nights, go out Thursday mornings, along with random other stuff sometimes. Yeah, I think that's my social footprint.
Yeah. You're the day before me because mine go out Fridays.
Yep.
So. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about these very sad teams with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad we could commiserate.
Yes, I was about to say, it feels nice to like have kind of a therapy session about our teams right now because a lot of other people that are coming on, they're like, oh, my team is wonderful. And all of these players are so good. I'm like, that must be so fun.
I went to New York City Football Giants game in California the other year, playing the 49ers, and both teams were looking for their first win of the season. And it was like a very genial atmosphere, especially for a football game of like, yes, let us watch these men be bad at their sport.
Yeah, that's how I felt with the Yankees and Royals, and then the Mets and White Sox, since I had to see both teams while I was there. It was really sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a rough time in New York right now.
Yes. All right.
Well, power through.
Yeah. Thank you again. Best of luck. I think we both need it. So there you go.
May we somehow have the first ties in MLB history.
Beautiful. Thank you.